Welcome back, everyone, to part 2 with Scott Reeve and the importance of discipline for children. So, Scott, what can happen if kids don't have discipline? What's your experience after 20 years of teaching? I want to know.
I think it's fairly obvious. I would think to most people, if kids don't have discipline, they they feel like they can do whatever they want,
Mm, ah,
right? Um, and before I share an experience in the classroom, I just saw a viral video on YouTube of this young girl. She was maybe 9 or 10 years old. She was in a Walmart and she was just walking around the aisles. I don't know what happened to her beforehand, but someone was video recording her, and she was just walking down the aisles and just slapping all the products down into the aisles.
Oh,
And there was a crowd starting to gather, and she was taking products and throwing them on the ground. And at the end of it, she had a grape juice bottle in her hand, and she threw it down, and it splattered all over the floor. And everyone's just watching her, and it's astounding to see this.
mm,
I guess it's like a child having a tantrum, that type of
mm-hmm,
thing, which has
mm-hmm,
happened, many times at home, at school, or in this case in the department store. But I just wondered how this little girl's life was at home. Did she have self-discipline, or did she
mm-hmm,
have discipline from her parents?
mm-hmm,
um and I'm going to assume not, because if she did, she wouldn't be doing this type of thing,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
So yeah, it just made me think of my experience in the class, and it was similar, where okay, I taught for about 20 years. I've been teaching for about 20 years, and you might think the worst class I had would be like maybe teenagers, but actually the worst, and I'm not putting down these children, it's just this is what happened. The worst class I had was grade 1 children. And
wow.
it was it was it was incredible, because the class size was about 15, and there was 5 or 6 boys who were just out of control. Usually in a classroom, I'm sure every teacher would say this, there's 1 or 2 children, you know, who don't have a lot of discipline, may call them troublemakers or call them, whatever you want, but there's reasons for it as well,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
not to put them down at all. But in this case, there was 5 or 6 young boys, and they just would get one of them would get very angry and start hitting books off of my desk. And uh, if I went over near him to try and calm him down, he would try and swing and hit me as hard as he could. Another boy, when he would get angry, he would take a marker and just write all over his desk,
mm-hmm,
and black marker that you can't erase.
mm-hmm.
So actually, I think this is a big can of worms we're opening here. Maybe not just discipline, but it can be emotional stuff, and it can be even as nutrition and habits, sleep habits. Maybe they're going to bed too late, but for the sake of our conversation, we can just focus on discipline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if kids don't have discipline, they feel like they can do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one aspect that everyone would agree upon. Um,
So what you
there's one. I've had this book. I don't know if you can see it. This little book. I've had this for like
mm-hmm.
30 years.
Mm. Wow,
It's
the
from
skilled profession of child rearing.
right. You can read that
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
I just
Yeah.
I just haven't been able to let go of it, because it's just a little book of wisdom. It's by Sri Dayamata. She was a president of the Self Realization Fellowship, started by
Mm.
Yogananda.
Oh yeah.
She was a
Mm-hmm.
president for like about 30 years or so. And she wrote this. And one of the things she says in here it's important. I'm reading this verbatim. It's important to teach children to accept responsibility. If a child is given everything they want, they do not learn the value of anything. So if you give them everything, they don't learn the value of anything. Yeah, they won't earn anything. They won't have the value of anything. So once good habits are formed, and this is when they're 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, before school, the child will automatically do what's right. When they go to school, when they're in the public setting, at a department store, or at friend's house, at the park, they'll automatically do what's right. Because again, they already have those good habits formed when they were young. And they have that foundation already. Starting at under 4 years old, I think is very important for kids and learning discipline that they will have throughout their life. So,
So what we're discussing here is the importance of rules and boundaries for kids. So what are some things that parents and teachers can do if children don't follow the rules? What's your recommendation there? Because many parents watching this are going to say, I have a problem child. I don't know what to do with my child. So help us out here.
Again, that's a big can of worms. If you say problem child, it could be chemical, it could be emotional, physical, many things. So you'd have to find out. But before that problem comes about, that's what I'm discussing. That's might already be too late to a certain extent, or at least it'll be more difficult to correct. Again, it starts early in age. Even in the womb, the mom and the dad can foster beautiful and loving thoughts, feelings, discussions. The relationship between the parents, if it's beautiful, then that affects children even in the womb. So, and then being 1 year old, 2 years old, you just continue that. But anyways, as they grow up, kids are going to test their parents, of course. They're going to see what they can do and what they can't do. So then you need to have some rules in place starting at a young age. And I would say having a clear system that kids know is very important. And that doesn't have to be difficult because they're young kids. So just having a clear system of a few rules of the house. And then if you don't follow the rules, and this is the result.
Yeah. Here are the consequences.
The consequences. And what I did in the classroom is, so it's perfectly clear. Everybody knows, here's what will happen if there's too much talking, or if, whatever, then I put the rules on the blackboard, and then the consequences. So when the kids start to debate or they start to argue, I don't even have to say anything. I can say, look, these are the rules. We already talked about this beforehand.
Okay. So I want to ask you, I very, very quickly, what did you do with these 5 boys in your classroom in your grade 1? How did you overcome that? Because that must have been pretty tricky for you. What did you do? What are 1 or 2 things that you did? I'm sure that you could write a book on it, but yeah.
That's a good question. And to be honest, in that case, it was a little bit tricky, because we have the teachers, we have the students, we have the principal, and we have the parents.
Yeah.
You got 4 kind of entities that ideally need to work together. So in a classroom setting, in a school setting, it's really a whole thing. And I would say it starts from the principal of the school, just like a business. You can tell the business by the president, and everything trickles down.
Mm-hmm.
So in this particular case, it was, and we just kept on having meetings. Nothing, I got to be honest, I couldn't do too much because of the other factors involved. These days is different. The parents have to take responsibility for children. And
Mm-hmm.
these days, parents, a lot of parents, they don't want to accept the fact that something might not be, correct with their kid, or their kid has problems.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was a hurdle to overcome. But I think eventually that all these issues were in the first semester of the school year. By the
Okay.
second semester, maybe the kids just felt, not too confident. They were unsettled. They needed one, because grade one.
Mm-hmm.
So they needed the first semester to trust me and the other teacher in the class and to feel settled. So by the second semester, it was a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe that they just needed to grow and be a little, have a little bit more maturity. So,
And I'm going to suggest that just your loving presence, Scott, just who you are, how kind and compassionate you are, that you probably help the parents a lot by working with these children. And
yeah,
so thank you
yeah.
for that. That's pretty awesome.
Patience is in these types of situations. Patience is very important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And like I said, um, love, like a loving presence.
Mm.
There's one doctor, Canadian doctor, Gabor Mate,
Mm-hmm.
and he has many books. But one of the books, that his most recent book, I believe, he co-wrote, or with another doctor. But one of the beautiful things I learned from him is that just to be in the presence of a child with love, no
Mm.
matter what they're going through,
Mm.
is the important thing. And that
Mm-hmm.
they can feel any emotion, or even if they're just playing, if they know
Mm.
you're there, if they know you're engaged, then that's a beautiful thing. And that can also help kids grow and, trust their parents. Then they'll want to follow the rules. They want to obey their parents. So there's lots of factors with disciplining children.
Mm.
So that's just another one. Being attentive to your child as a
Yeah.
teacher and as a parent, caring for them,
Yeah.
being compassionate, loving them, and not dismissing them or being overly
Yeah.
angry. And
Yeah.
of course, not being physical with them. Of course, that's a big
Mm.
no-no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
yeah, there's
hearing
lots of
them, really
things.
hearing what their heart has to say. Yeah. Hearing
Yeah,
the child's
listening and
heart, listening. Yeah, it's so important. All right, folks.
yeah.
Well, Scott, this is a joy. Folks, this is such a robust conversation. We're
Yes.
going to be back in a moment with part 3. So hold on.